From tiny cannons mocked as Doorknockers to a railway gun capable of firing shells the size of a tank, the Wehrmacht built one of the most terrifying artillery arsenals in history. Today, we rank every major German artillery piece of World War II by caliber, from smallest to largest. Let's begin. Tank Hunters, Panzer Abwehr Kanone. 37mm Pak 36, the Doorknocker. This was the standard early war light anti-tank gun for infantry support across the entire German army. In 1939, this was state-of-the-art technology, light enough for 2 men to move and practically invisible in tall grass. But by 1941, against Soviet T-34s, it was completely useless against frontal armor. German crews bitterly renamed it the Hirsenkopfgerät, which means the army Doorknocker, because its shells merely announced your presence to the enemy tank without penetrating inside. Strengths include extreme portability and early war effectiveness, while weaknesses are obsolete penetration and humiliating battlefield performance against modern tanks. 50mm Pak 38, the bridge weapon. This was the mid-war upgrade capable of piercing medium armor using tungsten core ammunition. It introduced a low-profile split trail carriage and double-layered shield for crew protection on the Eastern Front. This was the German answer to the crisis of inadequate anti-tank weaponry facing T-34s. While it was a significant improvement over the 37mm, it still struggled to kill heavy tanks from the front, forcing crews to rely on dangerous flank shots. Strengths include improved penetration and better crew protection, while weaknesses are continued struggles against heavy armor and limited availability of tungsten rounds. 75mm Pak 40, the backbone. This was the true heavy hitter and backbone of German anti-tank defense, capable of destroying almost any Allied vehicle on the battlefield. If you see footage of a German gun crew in 1944, it is likely this weapon. It traded mobility for pure lethality and could kill a Sherman from over 1,000 yards with standard ammunition. But it was so heavy that if the crew did not have a tractor during retreat, they often had to spike the gun and abandon it behind enemy lines. Strengths include devastating firepower and ability to defeat all Allied armor, while weaknesses are extreme weight and immobility during rapid retreats. Infantry support, the trench clearers. 75mm Likes Infantry Gestets 18, the mountain gun. This was a portable mountain and infantry gun used to clear machine gun nests and fortified positions. It used a unique shotgun-style breech mechanism where the entire barrel tipped upward to load shells. It was reliable and ubiquitous, serving in every German infantry battalion from the invasion of Poland to the fall of Berlin in 1945. The compact design allowed it to be broken down and carried by mountain troops. Strengths include portability and reliability in all conditions, while weaknesses are limited range and relatively weak firepower for its weight. 150mm Schwer's Infantry Gestets 33, the siege hammer. This was the largest caliber infantry gun ever fielded by any nation in World War II. The Germans decided to mount a massive heavy artillery barrel on a tiny infantry carriage, creating a monster. The result was devastating firepower for infantry commanders capable of leveling an entire house with one shot. The downside was the recoil was so violent it often damaged its own wheels, requiring constant repairs. Strengths include devastating close-range firepower and ability to destroy fortifications, while weaknesses are brutal recoil damaging the weapon and extremely limited mobility. Field artillery, the division workhorses. 105mm LuFH-18, the workhorse. This was the primary field howitzer providing indirect fire support for frontline troops across all theaters. Equivalent to the American 105mm, this gun did the heavy lifting throughout the entire war. It was robust and accurate with excellent range for its caliber. But like many German designs, it was over-engineered and heavy for its role. On the Russian steppes, horse teams frequently collapsed trying to drag this steel beast through deep mud. Strengths include reliability and accurate indirect fire, while weaknesses are excessive weight and over-engineered complexity. 150mm SFH-18, the Evergreen. This was a corps-level heavy howitzer nicknamed Immergrün, meaning evergreen, by German soldiers. It was the first German artillery piece to use rocket-assisted shells to dramatically extend range beyond normal limits. It was a potent weapon but created a logistical nightmare for supply units. It was so heavy that for transport the barrel often had to be dismantled and carried on a separate trailer, delaying setup time significantly during rapid movements. Strengths include extended range with rocket-assisted projectiles, while weaknesses are extreme weight and slow deployment time. Flak The Sky Clearers, 20mm Flak 30 and 38. The Buzzsaw. This was a rapid-fire autocannon used against low-flying aircraft and massed infantry attacks. This was the most produced German artillery piece of the entire war, with thousands manufactured. While designed for planes, it was terrifyingly effective against infantry in the open. The 38 version doubled the fire rate to 420 rounds per minute, earning a fearsome reputation as a chaotic suppressive weapon. Strengths include massive production numbers and devastating anti-personnel capability, while weaknesses are limited effectiveness against armored aircraft and heavy ammunition consumption. 37mm Flak 18, 36, and 37, the Clockwork Gun. This was a medium-caliber anti-aircraft gun that bridged the gap between the light 20mm and the heavy 88mm weapons. Soldiers called this the Clockwork Gun because of its complex internal mechanics and precision timing mechanisms. It packed enough punch to tear a wing completely off a heavy bomber with a single direct hit, something the 20mm could not do consistently. Strengths include sufficient power to down heavy bombers, while weaknesses are mechanical complexity requiring trained crews. 88mm Flak 18, 36, and 37, the Legend. This was the high-velocity anti-aircraft gun that became the most feared tank destroyer of the war. Known simply as the 88, it was originally designed as an AA gun until Rommel realized its high velocity could slice through any tank armor in existence. It became a dual-purpose terror on every front. If you heard the distinctive crack of an 88 firing, you were already dead because the shell traveled faster than the speed of sound arriving before the sound. Strengths include legendary dual roll capability and unmatched tank-killing power, while weaknesses are large size, making it difficult to conceal and vulnerability when deployed against tanks. Nebelwerfer, the Screaming Death. 150mm Nebelwerfer 41, the Screaming Mimi. This was a 6-barreled rocket launcher designed to saturate target areas with high explosives in seconds. Allied troops called it the Screaming Mimi due to the horrific howling sound the rockets made in flight. It could dump its entire payload of 6 rockets in just 10 seconds, creating devastating effects. The trade-off was the massive smoke trail that pointed directly back to the launch site, inviting immediate counter-battery fire from Allied artillery. Strengths include psychological terror and rapid saturation fire, while weaknesses are revealing smoke signature and inaccuracy at range. 210mm Nebelwerfer 42, the Heavy Screamer. This was a larger 5-barrel launcher designed to fire a much heavier payload with improved flight characteristics. The Germans modified the design to fire massive 210mm rockets with better aerodynamics. Instead of just high explosive, these rockets were shaped to improve range and stability during flight. But they retained the signature psychological terror of their predecessor with the same horrifying scream. Strengths include heavier warhead and improved range, while weaknesses are reduced rate of fire and continued vulnerability to counter-battery. Heavy artillery, the Groundbreakers. 170mm Kanone 18, the Long Reach. This was a long-range core-level gun designed specifically for counter-battery fire missions. This gun was all about extreme reach and could strike targets nearly 30 kilometers away, outranging almost all Allied artillery pieces. However, it was so massive that it required a crew of 10 men working for hours to dig it into firing position properly. Strengths include superior range for counter-battery missions, while weaknesses are enormous size and extremely slow deployment time. 600mm Karlgerät, the Siege Tower. This was a self-propelled siege mortar built specifically to crack the Maginot Line and the fortress of Sevastopol. Named after General Karl Becker, only 7 units existed in the entire German arsenal. It fired a 2-ton shell designed to penetrate 2.5 meters of solid reinforced concrete in a single hit. It was not a tank, but a slow-moving siege tower that required a dedicated crane just to load a single massive shell. Strengths include devastating bunker-busting capability, while weaknesses are glacial movement speed and requiring extensive support infrastructure. 800mm Schwerer Gustav, the Ultimate Monster. This was the largest weapon ever used in the history of warfare, a railway gun of unprecedented scale designed to destroy the strongest fortifications on Earth. The statistics are absolutely terrifying, with a 400-ton barrel and 1,350-ton total weight requiring dual railway tracks. It fired a 7-ton shell, which weighs as much as a fully loaded school bus, over 47 kilometers at the siege of Sevastopol. It fired just 48 rounds during the entire war, but one of them pierced 30 meters of seabed and bedrock to destroy an ammunition magazine buried beneath the ocean floor. It was the ultimate example of German engineering, technically magnificent but strategically useless, requiring hundreds of men just to operate. Strengths include unmatched destructive power against any fortification, while weaknesses are complete immobility, astronomical cost, and requiring an entire support battalion to operate. Conclusion: from mobile early war weapons to massive engineering monsters, this arsenal reflects the rise and fall of the Third Reich. While some became legends like the Pak-40 and the 88, others proved that bigger doesn't always mean better.